everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Adam and Chris Show. I'm St. Adam.
And I'm Chris Malice.
And Chris, what are we talking about today?
So our audience gets a good idea of us personally.
I think they already have an idea of us personally.
I mean, our growing audience to get to know us a little bit better. We're doing a top 10, personal top 10.
Yeah, you don't want to know the pictures he's going to be showing in this video. It's a little too personal.
Oh, no, it's not. My top 10 favorite films. That's what this list is. It's a personal opinion.
They're all X-rated?
No, they're not all X-rated.
No, so not all of them are?
I don't think there's one on there that's X-rated. We don't do X-rated anymore. We do NC-17. And the moment that something gets that rating, it doesn't end up in theaters. When was the last NC-17 movie you heard that was in a theater?
Showgirls.
How long ago was that? How well did that do?
I don't know how well it did, but I mean, brought a smile to my eye when it came to HBO. Smile.
Did you see the what was the name of the lead actress? The scene where
Elizabeth Berkley,
where she fucked Kyle MacLachlan in a pool.
Do you really want to be talking about this when you're talking about your favorite?
I'm just saying, if there's sex scenes that turn you off, that'll be number one. She's bopping up and down like a fucking fish. It's weird. All right, so my top 10 favorite films. So I'm going to start off with number 10, Infinity War, the Avengers Infinity War. Love that movie. It's my favorite Marvel movie.
Why?
Because Thanos wins. Me and him, we took our wives to go see it. We saw it in...
Drive-in.
Drive-in, yeah. So after... Of course, if you've seen the movie, you know the ending. Most people have seen the movie. One of the most memorable moments dealing with Spider-Man, where he's grabbed a hold of Tony and he's like, no, I don't want to go,
No, that's the 10th Doctor you're thinking of.
No, Mr. Stark, I don't want to go. So after we get done watching that, I go take a piss, and I think there's a line for the concessionary because there's another film showing that night. And there was a girl go like, oh, I'm going to go home and cry so hard.
There was a car full of like teenage girls that had gone to see it, and they were all crying because I remember I walked to the concession stand with you. It was a double feature. For some reason, it was Infinity War and then Black Panther. You think it'd be the other way around, but yeah, like they were distraught, and none of them wanted to stick around for the second feature. They're like, fuck this, let's go home, fuck the world.
And I was all like healing out. I'm like, oh yeah, that's the way to do it. Number 9, another recent release, Todd Phillips' Joker movie with Joaquin Phoenix. Love that movie. I'm a big fan of the movie Taxi Driver. It has that element to it. It's quite a bit of a tribute to Martin Scorsese. There's a lot of stuff that you've seen in other Scorsese films in this. On top of it being a very smart comic book film. Way more mature. A lot of people, I think, forget, and I know there's people in the industry, the movie industry, that look towards comic films like they're, subpar and they're naturally...
Yeah, Scorsese himself said that.
People forget The Road to Perdition, which was nominated for Best Picture with Tom Hanks, was originally a graphic novel, and I think it's Tom Hanks' best movie. Joker made you uncomfortable. It should. Joaquin's performance is almost as good as Heath Ledger's, in my opinion. So Joker, number 9. Number 8, movie called Jacob's Ladder with Tim Robbins.
So you're not talking about the remake?
Oh, fuck that. No way. They should. Oh, boy, they fucked up there. So it's a movie about a group of Vietnam War veterans that end up going, after they've left Vietnam and dealing with, like, seeing ghosts and crazy shit. Tim Robbins' character is trying to figure out what went on, and it turns out they were put on this drug that made them way more hyper-aggressive. And he's seeing like these crazy demons and hallucinations. It is one of the most underrated horror films I think I've ever seen. The ending is fantastic. It is a downer movie. Great movie to see, though. Highly recommend it.
Yeah, I remember the ending of that. In the very last scene, Thanos snaps his fingers.
You can make that argument. I'm not going to continue. Number 7, The Usual Suspects. What else do I have to say about one of the greatest mob movies ever made? One of the greatest heist films.
And it's a ensemble cast.
Yep. Great ensemble cast. Great directing. Of course, it's got a little bit of a twist ending. A good twist, not a Shyamalan twist. Kevin Spacey has a great performance in it. The script is really...
Oh, there's the elephant in the room.
Yeah. I like Gabriel Byrne a lot in the movie. It knows how to lure you in and then push it back a little bit. It doesn't put all of its cards at the table until the last 5-6 minutes of the movie. And then you start to see the better picture of it.
It has an ending that's been spoofed a lot.
Yes. Also, when you watch it the first time, you see it differently than when you see it the second time. You start trying to pick up what Verbal's looking at and all that type of stuff. So, Usual Suspects is my 7. 6, Hellraiser, my favorite horror movie. Brutal, beautiful, well written, well directed. Pinhead is iconic, or used to be way more iconic until they started making straight to DVD movies and shitting on the franchise.
Well, you could argue that they did that right after the second one.
Yeah.
Or when they sent him into space.
Here's the thing. That was bad, but there's a history of horror movie icon being sent to space being done, and it's always done terribly. That was done less terribly. You believed it. You believed that he was going on there, that space station, to locate the Lament configuration or whatever. It's not great. I remember when I saw it, I think I was like 19, maybe a little bit younger, but the first one is the best. One of the best scenes in that movie is when Uncle Frank, his skeleton body comes out of the
special effects in that. Yeah.
The slow build of it too. The creature effects were brilliant. Ashley Lawrence is the heroine in that movie, was great.
We have some quotable lines from that film.
Yep. Number 5, The Big Lebowski. My favorite comedy. I mean, if you're on the internet, it's one of the most talked about films online. It's got such a huge cult following. It's funnier than fuck. It is the best John Goodman performance. I will stand by that 100%.
I was going to say who else is in that film.
John Goodman, Steve Buscemi, Jeff Bridges. And at one point, what was his name? Who passed away? He was the other Lebowski's assistant. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Philip Seymour Hoffman. He's in it. Julianne Moore.
Tara Reid, and they use her the right way in very small doses.
Yeah. So it's a movie about a loser that gets basically brought in on a ransom / kidnapping thing. He's, the dude. They call him the dude. He's kind of just a goofball. All he cares about is bullying, smoking weed, and drinking White Russians. He somehow, because he shares the same name as a millionaire, gets roped in this crazy conspiracy. And his best friend, Walter Sobchak, is sitting with him along the way. And it's fucking hilarious.
It's even hilarious how they edit certain parts for TV.
Watching that movie censored is fucking hysterical. There's a scene where Goodman's got this crowbar and he's beating on somebody's car. In a censored version, in the original version, he said, "This is what happens when you fuck a stranger in the ass." The censored version, he's like, "This is what happens when you find a stranger in the Alps." That alone is fucking hysterical. Absolutely hilarious movie. It does weird humor very well. Number 4. This is a movie my grandfather hates, but I absolutely love. 7. With Brad Pitt and Morgan Freeman. I think it is one of
the elephant in the room.
What?
Who else is in that film?
Oh, yeah. Kevin Spacey. They were so good at hiding him playing the serial killer. If you look
Spoilers.
at... Kevin Spacey's John Doe. If you look for...
Spoilers for a, 25-year-old movie?
Yeah, a 25-year-old masterpiece. If you look for videos of film critics reviewing it, anytime you hear John Doe's voice, and in the movie you hear it's Kevin Spacey's voice, they hide it. They put in like a voice dub. So the movie is about a serial killer going around killing people based on the 7 deadly sins, and a brand new detective is on the case, played by Brad Pitt, and he's teamed up with a seasoned detective who's retiring soon, played by Morgan Freeman, in what I think is the best performance in Morgan Freeman's career.
You know, he did play God. I'm just putting that out there.
But still, this is still better. Because there's this volume of heft that he carries. Like, he's constantly carrying the burden of the city that they live in on him. And trying to teach this new young blood, hey, you think you know, but you don't fucking have any idea.
And they got to answer the biggest question of all. What's in the box?
Yep. And then there's that ending. The ending comes out of... That ending hits you like a fucking hammer. You're like, oh God, it went there. Wow. For one of the things it's a tribute to old Italian horror films. It's a gallows film. You never see any of the victims killed in this movie like you would see in something like Saw, who ripped off this basic concept and just ran with it for like 8 films. You never see that. You only see the after effects. You only see them show up and start investigating the crime scene, like the greed murder, where the word greed is written on blood on a carpet, or the gluttony murder, where it's you see the dead body of this 500-pound man, and you see the word gluttony written in grease behind his refrigerator. It is, I think it's David Fincher, who later went on to direct Fight Club and Social Network. It is his finest film. It's one of the best films I've ever seen. Number 3, The Dark Knight, my favorite superhero film. The best rendition of Joker, I still think, is Heath Ledger. A lot of other great performances for Joker. The film is basically the elevation of how Batman has escalated crime. They thoroughly examine the idea that since he's been there, since he goes there, the gangs got to answer Batman, and who they answer it with? Joker. A freaking anarchist terrorist who has no fucks to give and is blowing up half of Gotham and the prosecutors. Great movie, one of my all-time favorites.
He only blew up half the prosecutor.
Yeah, he did. He blew up half of one prosecutor. My number 2 is the movie Taxi Driver by Martin Scorsese. It is a insanely uncomfortable film to watch. Robert De Niro plays a former Vietnam veteran who is going through some mental issues, who you see him living in the city. He's decided to do a lot of work, and he becomes a taxi driver. He becomes obsessed with a politician and Sybil Shepherd, which there's no good reason to be obsessed with Sybil Shepherd, but I'll go back to her in a moment. But
someone should, I guess.
Yeah. So he eventually, at one point, meets this 13-year-old girl that's a prostitute. And played by Jodie Foster, a very young Jodie Foster. There's things in this, and Harvey Keitel plays the prostitute, the man pimping her.
You mean the pimp, not the
prostitute?
The
pimp, yeah. He plays the pimp. When they were filming this, anytime she was dancing as a 13-year-old with Harvey, it was actually a little person dancing with Harvey.
That's good.
Yeah. So they didn't have her doing anything she shouldn't. At one point, De Niro goes nuts and he starts fixating on taking out this politician, and then that angst and that animosity ends up eventually getting aimed in a better direction when it comes to the man pimping out the 13-year-old. I think it's a very good example of how, let's say, explosive angst and anger could finally be channeled to something a little bit more positive. You know, you start off seeing him being uncomfortable, possibly, he takes Sybil Shepherd to a porn movie. She don't want to have to talk to him ever again. He eventually goes after the prostitute that's pimping Jodie Foster. Great movie. Scorsese's got a bit in it for 30 seconds. I won't repeat any of the fucking things he says in it.
No.
That's a quick demonetization.
No.
It took risks.
You just shouldn't anyway.
Yeah. it took huge risks, I think, and it was Scorsese's always improved as a filmmaker, and I think him as a filmmaker at that point, I think he had something he really wanted to say. Funny side note about the film: at one point, a man tried to take out Ronald Reagan, quoting that he was obsessed with Jodie Foster and he was trying to get her attention, and kind of, steering the direction toward this movie. And the Sybil Shepherd, years after Reagan got shot, they addressed her talking about the movie and that situation. And this fucking dumb actress. So after it, she says, she's like, well, De Niro was actually obsessed with me, so he should have been obsessed with me instead of Jodie Foster. It's like, so somebody tried to kill the president, and that's your first fucking thought. Bravo. All right.
Before you go to your number one, do you want to watch Mojo this at all and like throw up some runners up?
Okay, I can. I'll put up like two. I'll put up like 2 or 3.
There you go.
Boondock Saints. Love that movie. It's one of those movies. I think this town I've introduced that movie to.
Yeah.
We had filming parties. After I had seen it, I got like 5 or 6 of my friends, and I was like, "You guys have to watch this movie." The only thing about that movie, it used to be like one of my top 5, is it's like one of those things. I think it's aged okay. It's just the era around it has gotten weirder, and Leon the Professional. That's a goddamn great movie.
That movie is what inspired them to give the character Leon his name in Resident Evil 2.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, great movie. Natalie Portman ends up, her family gets gunned down by corrupt DEA agents, and she is, showing up home as the crime's happening, and she ends up taking refuge with a hitman. They end up becoming, I think, having a more father and daughter relationship, even though she sees it as much more and he doesn't. There's a cut of the film where she tries to seduce him that's really uncomfortable. So I suggest watching the American version. Gary Oldman, what drew me in was Gary Oldman's role as the villain. He was irredeemable, unlikable, but fun as hell. And another one of my favorites is the movie The Hitcher with Rutger Hauer. Great movie, great game of cat and mouse. The whole thing about that movie that makes it so different is Rutger Hauer's basically trying to get the main character to take him out. That is his goal, is to continue to push him to take him out. And Rutger Hauer is absolutely horrifying in that movie because he does not relent. So there's 3 runners up, so I'll address my favorite film is Reservoir Dogs by Quentin Tarantino. Written and directed by Quentin Tarantino and co-written by, I forget his name. Later.
Because it's his favorite movie.
Well, I mean, there's a controversy about the guy who helped write it. He made claims that he wrote, because he also co-wrote Pulp Fiction with Quentin Tarantino. He later went and wrote and directed the movie Killing Zoe, which is great. So he made claims that Tarantino pretty much took way more credit than he was actually involved with that movie. My retort is, if you've seen Tarantino's filmography since then and since Pulp Fiction, if your worst movie is what was the movie with the cars?
Death Proof.
Death Proof. If that is the worst movie in your legacy of weird, films like that, that's a pretty good high standard. I wasn't that big of a fan of Kill Bill, but I digress. What I love about Reservoir Dogs, you got, not so huge actors. I think the biggest actor you have is Tim Roth and Keitel. And they play off each other. It is a group of bank robbers show up at a warehouse after a failed diamond heist, and they're debating if one of them's a rat while one of them is injured with a shot to the gut. They flash back a couple of times to the gathering of bringing them together. I'm not going to say who the rat is. There is a rat there, but everything is oozes style. When I was in high school, the scene at the dining room table, at the breakfast table, where they're all talking shit to each other, I can quote most of that. That's where the debate on do you really believe in tipping or not happens. You know, Steve Buscemi's character, Mr. Pink, says he doesn't believe in tipping. It's well written. It is got a decent budget, not a huge budget. But what interests me is the fact that these people were able to sell you this movie that is based in one location, a fucking warehouse. That is it. It's like 12 Angry Men. 12 Angry Men is based in one key location, the jury room. I highly admire the ability of each one of those actors and the writer and director to be able to keep you in suspense, keeping you basically in that one location. And that's my favorite film, Reservoir Dogs.
You know, I'm
This has been the Adam and Chris Show.
well, I mean, yeah, usually we like to recommend stuff. I guess just check out any or all the movies on his list.
Yep.
And we'll get his thoughts on Law Abiding Citizen later. But if you like this video, please give us a thumbs up and a share. Please, you know, if there's any movies that you like and you think that maybe Chris would like and hasn't mentioned, just comment in the comment section below. Be sure to follow us on Facebook and on Twitter. And from the Adam and Chris Show, I'm St. Adam.
I'm Chris Mouse.
See you later.